Really excited to share with you today one of my favorite topics, which is talking about how we can mobilize change agents. Change agents are really important in change initiatives, and you may have heard this terminology before. I think sometimes change agents, um, change liaisons, change uh, leaders get confused a little bit. Sometimes those terms are used interchangeably in a change initiative. But I have to tell you that change agents are a very special breed, very special type of help that we provide in change management implementations. And so I wanted to take time today just to give you a few minutes to think about how can we mobilize people as change agents to help implement our change initiatives so that we can be more successful in all of our project leadership and all of our project initiatives and change initiatives. So, first thing is to really start out just talking about uh, how we want to be present and help people prepare for change. One of the core tenets of organizational change management is that change management helps people to move from that current state to the future state to achieve the benefits of the change. So, number one, there has to be a benefit of change, obviously. But another issue is that we have to ensure that people in the organization and the organization itself are both ready to move to a future state. And so I think that's a critically important piece. One of the one of the very first roles I had as a change management lead was to build a change agent network. And so I learned a lot during that activity. It really surprised me how difficult and complex and effective it was to really build and mobilize people as change agents. So I'll give you a little bit of a introduction to what a change agent actually does. In a project, in an organizational change management project, such as an ERP or an SAP implementation, or maybe even some sort of an healthcare implementation, like an EMR or EHR implementation, we will see that there are individuals who can work in the unit, be a part of the unit that is accepting the change, that's adopting the change. For example, if it's a group that's adopting an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system, this might be somebody who works in one of the offices that the enterprise resource planning system will impact. So this is some sort of an end user or stakeholder. End users are very specific types of stakeholders, but everybody who's impacted by change is a stakeholder. And this individual may be a stakeholder as well. However, these are individuals who others look up to in their units. These are individuals who others turn to for help and assistance in their business units. And this individual is high enough in the organization that they can make decisions and that they have a connection to leadership. And they're also in the point in the organization where they still know how work is done. I think that's an important differentiator because sometimes we have individuals who are leaders in our organization who've risen through the ranks and they actually are, relatively high level, high band leaders, and yet they might not know how work is done any longer. Or maybe they came in as a leader and didn't actually experience the work along the way and rising through the ranks. So that's important to look for when we're thinking about change agents, who we want to recruit, who we want to include, who we want to identify as change agents. We want it to be that person in a business unit, in an organization, in an academic unit, in a healthcare department or unit, where they are asked and seen as a leader, asked for help, seen as a leader, and are close enough to the work that they still know how the work is done. And they are high enough in the organization that they are identified as a leader and listened to as a leader. That's the sweet spot. That's the change agent. So sometimes it's not always easy to find that change agent. Many times when I have been on the on my mission to create a change agent network of individuals who are in that sweet spot in the organization doing the work itself, many times I will put together um, a job description, essentially identifying that I want these change agents to be in this particular spot. Somebody that everybody turns to for help and assistance, that they are recognized by leadership and listened to by leadership in their organization, and they also still know how the work is getting accomplished. I also talk about wanting to, in my change agent description, I also talk about the importance of having great communication skills, just great interpersonal communication skills. Sometimes those can be taught and enhanced and improved, but a lot of individuals are naturally gifted at communication, and we want to look for that particular individual. We're looking for somebody who's relatively positive about change. I mean, they may not be thinking, boy, I sure wish I could be a part of a change initiative, but they're not negative about the change. They're hopeful about the change, and they clearly understand the benefit of the change when you talk with them. And I think also one of the real keys is that we have somebody who's assuming positive intent. I like that phrase. I like talking about assuming positive intent as a way to identify those people that we want involved with our change initiatives. So I would look for somebody, I would use a job description, and I would meet with leadership and share the job description. Say, we are looking for individuals from each of your business units, and it can be several individuals. In the example of working implementing an EHR or an EMR in a healthcare organization, we have different shifts. And so sometimes we need more than one individual to be a change agent to represent people. So we want to ensure that we can figure out how to identify this change agent in the organization. We want to recruit and get names and have some interviews and select the change agents just as we would want to select a highly valued employee for a very important role, because this change agent role is a big deal. So I would recruit them and then bring them together, and I would start out by talking with that group about the benefit of this change. Now, it's hard sometimes to convince people who have been sometimes voluntold that they should be involved in the benefit of this change. But many times, one of the things that I have found has really sort of helped the change agents stand out from other potential individuals is their positive intent and their faith that this change will bring a benefit that will be realized for the entire organization. So then I would want to think about, how do I use these change agents? Well, when we're thinking about mobilizing change agents, I'm, I'm going to step back a minute and just tell you about my very first change agent group that I had to bring together. When I was at a Big Ten university, we were implementing an ERP system. We were doing financials, space management, student administration, student recruiting and admissions, and also HR. And then we were going to bring in and a big financials piece. So we had a really large ERP implementation. And the very first job that my my new boss had given me was to build a change agent network. And I wasn't quite sure what she meant, but she gave me this description of the change agents and who I was looking for. And I did contact all of the 28 schools and colleges at the university to see who they would recommend from their group to be a change agent. I was excited because I was able to get from the 23 schools and colleges 24 people to come to our first meeting. And these 24 change agents arrived at the first meeting quite curious. But I have to tell you, it didn't go that well because my boss was extremely technical and she was so brilliant. And yet she loved sharing technical information in a technical way. And so, of course, she said, "We are building an enterprise resource planning system, and this is very important to you." That was about all she shared with them, and they couldn't quite get their arms around it. So eventually, after 20 or 30 minutes, they left. Nothing happened. My boss said, "You better do a better job of this next meeting. We need more people." And I was kind of worried. So I worked very hard, was on the phone, recruited all of these change agent potential people to come to our next meeting. And yet my boss stood up and gave the same exact spiel about our enterprise resource planning. This is a relational database that will be talking with each other. But she didn't really explain to these change agents what exactly the benefit of this change would be. And as a result, the 50 people I had brought together left empty handed again. Now I was very, very concerned. And so I I reached out to more people within the organization. And for the third meeting, which my boss was really frustrated that we hadn't made headway yet with this change agent group. But for this third meeting, she brought everybody together, and yet she talked about the same exact enterprise resource planning, relational database, how important this was for the university's future. And they got bored and they rolled their eyes, and I wasn't sure what to do. And so I was so frustrated. I just suddenly yelled in the middle of the meeting. I just said, "Hey, everyone, have you ever heard of Walmart?" And they just kind of stopped complaining and looked at me like I was crazy. And I proceeded to tell them about running errands with my children, my two little daughters at the time. I had to run errands and go to the grocery store and the hardware store and the pharmacy and the bank and all of these places every single Saturday. And it took me hours and hours to do this. And yet, the week previously, I had discovered the most amazing place in the world, and that was Walmart. When I took my kids to Walmart, everything I had needed was in one place. There was a grocery store, there was a hardware section, there was a pharmacy, they had a bank, they even had a Subway sandwich shop. Kept those girls happy. And so I told them that this enterprise resource planning relational database was going to be like a Walmart, a student data super center where they could go in one place, get everything they needed about students, and come out instead of having to go step by step by step to multiple databases to try to find information about students. And when they heard this, they were excited. They said, "Oh, why didn't you say so? We love Walmart. We'd love to have something like that. Yes, we want to do this." And from that point on, we had a change agent network tentatively, and we worked hard to develop them into terrific change agents. The thing that became so amazing about this change agent network was the fact that they all understood that it was up to them to take the information from the project team. And it could be information around business process redesign, it could be training, could be who needs what type of access to do the work, what kind of work will we be doing. All of this information was being brought to the project by these change agents because they were well versed, well understood their own departments and agencies and school and college. And then the project would give them information to take back to their enterprise, their business, their school, their college, their agency, and they would share the information. They were a pivot point for all of this information to go back and forth between the business unit and the project, and to be able to share that information in a very direct way so that when individual stakeholders had concerns or issues, they knew who to contact in their area. They knew to contact the change agent who would collect the information and then have a meeting, a monthly meeting with the project, where they would be able to share the information they'd heard from their end users, their stakeholders. So it was an extremely effective group. once we built that single change agent network, and it started out small. I mean, we had about 30 people in it at the beginning. It it grew and it changed because every single time we implemented a different piece of our enterprise planning system, resource planning system, we were able to either use the existing change agent liaison person, right? This change agent, we use the existing person, or they would recommend we add their financials counterpart so that the financials counterpart would be able to engage with the project on the financials information. Now, the amazing thing is that uh, there was no extra pay for this change agent network. There was really just this understanding, and we did some training with those change agents to ensure that they really understood the whole change management process and the project management process so that they would have a sense of what was happening when, and they understood the urgency and the value of providing business process insights so that we could help them transition their work the business process itself, in addition to adopting new technology, new systems. So this was a terrific success. Um, and and I thought about, how did that actually happen? We started with 30, and that group was actually launched in 1998, and they still exist as a group. And now they have more than 200 members, but not all 200 members come to every meeting because it depends on what the topic is. If the topic is about the financial system, then the financials change agents come to that meeting. If the topic is about the student administration system, the student administration change agents come to that meeting. If it's a global change agent meeting, they do all attend together. But it's been incredibly effective and in place for more than 25 years. So it's been very, very successful, and actually a key success factor to this adoption of this organizational change. So finding those great change agents is really important, and working with the leadership, and also sort of finding somebody to help you get your ear to the ground in the organization itself is really important. Asking for people to be nominated and suggested, and then thinking about how do we help them um, provide this sort of two-way communication, right? To the business, to the project, to the business, to the project. That two-way communication is essential. And so one of the very first things that we did when we were mobilizing this change agent group, then one of the first tasks was that we built a website that was only for them. We didn't give them a special password, but we didn't really think anybody else was very interested, and it turns out they weren't. So we created a website where they could go for all of the information that they needed, for downloads of posters, or downloads of communication flyers, articles that they could put in their departmental or college communication newsletter that went out on a regular basis. We also did things to make it simple for them. We provided them with a change agent toolkit. So anything that they needed was in this place on this website. They were able to access it, and if they didn't see something there, they had one of the most important tools of all. They had access to the leader of the change agent network, and they would ask her to please put in a suggestion to the project to create something that they felt they needed to help explain and share this change with their unit or their academic school or college. And so it was terrific in that sense, because when we first brought this change agent network live, when we brought the 30 people together, and we could see we were going to have to add to it as we were adding more and more implementations. One of the biggest pieces was that we hired a full-time change agent network advisor, and her entire role was to take care of the change agents. And this woman was just fantastic. I have to tell you, I admire her so much. And she did a terrific job of setting up triage methods for the change agents to reach out to her. And she spent a great deal of time every single week on the phone to all of the Change Agent Network participants to ensure that they had what they needed. And so the she grew into her role, and they grew used to her, and she served them very well for I think about 15 years or so as their leader. And she was absolutely essential in that role. So don't feel that this change agent network is a group that you have to, don't feel that this change agent network is a group that sort of has to run itself. It really needs attention. This group needs time and attention. They need a full time support person. And hoping that somebody can maybe part-time in addition to their help desk role, um, lead the change agents, I think is just a recipe for disaster. So I think you need to really respect the fact that these are highly valued individuals, these change agents in your change implementation, and they deserve a full-time resource to take care of them, provide them with what they need, and to ensure they're successful. I think also change agents can be a little less formal. I mean, this was a pretty formal group. I've had change agent networks that were relatively informal, also, where the leader of every region selected one person from their region to come to change agent meetings and be able to bring back information. And they didn't have these structured pieces, the big pieces, but I always provided a toolkit, and I served as their contact person if I felt that we were not didn't have the political support to bring a big effort in change agents, but I knew we would be well served if we had a change agent network of some kind. So they can look all sorts of different ways. Um, if I were doing a change it at an elementary school, I think I would select, maybe one teacher from each grade level, or maybe one teacher from each teaching team. And sometimes we have teaming in schools to serve as change agents, along with one or two administrators from the school who would then work with somebody, I'm sure, in administration. So it's really this fantastic role that you should be leveraging in all of your change implementations. And if you're not using change agents, I really encourage you to do so, because there's just nothing like having somebody who really knows the work that you do and who really understands the business that you're in speak to you and help you understand the benefit of a change. There's just nothing like it. It cannot be replaced. So it's very important to understand that peer relationship, that two-way communication door, that interface that the change agent provides for the business unit and for the project is so important that I thought it was worth spending time today talking about it so that you can mobilize your own change agent networks. If you have questions or you'd love to know more about how to do this, please feel free to email me or reach out to me. I'm so happy to share information. I want nothing but the best for your implementations. And we also have our Ready, Set, Change accelerated training and exam prep that begins on April 22nd. And that is a 3-week program that will teach you the entire Ready framework and the 21 hours of qualified education provider training that you need to take the certified change management professional exam. And then if you are excited about furthering your career as a change management professional, or adding change management to your project professional career or to your HR career, I think I would highly encourage you to take that CCMP exam, Certified Change Management Professional exam, to take our training, take that exam, and then you'll have this fantastic understanding of how to really lead your team, lead your your stakeholders and lead your project to success by implementing all of the people-focused tools and techniques that we know help people adapt change more effectively, adapt change more easily, and adapt change with less struggle so that we can make it to that future state. So please feel free to join us April 22nd if you'd like to sign up for our training. We'll put it in the comments below. But you are welcome to sign up for our Ready, Set, Change accelerated training and exam prep. And we'd love to help you earn your CCNP. And anytime you want to reach out and talk more about mobilizing change agents and other tools and techniques of change management, please feel free to reach out because I'd love to help you. Have a great week. Thank you.